Such time as I may consume.
Gentlelady is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I rise today in strong support of H.R. 1, the For the People Act of 2021. Today we can deliver this to the American people. We can deliver the gold standard of reforms to protect the right of Americans to vote. We can take a huge step to fulfill that promise in our Constitution of a more perfect union. More voters cast a ballot in the 2020 election than in history, in an election that has been called the most secure in American history by election security experts. The last election, conducted during a once-in-a-generation pandemic, saw changes that made it easier for many Americans to vote. Reforms like absentee voting and early voting. It also put into stark focus what many of us already knew. Deep inequities persist in our democratic system. Now comes the backlash to the increase in voter participation. That record turnout, with no credible instance of election irregularity, stimulated hundreds of bills in state legislatures to make it harder for Americans to vote in the future. We should protect access to the ballot, not restrict it. H.R. 1 gives voters choices for how to cast their ballot. They want and need that. The bill has a minimum of 15 days of early voting, minimum standards for the number and location of ballot drop boxes, and a national standard for no-excuse absentee voting. It improves access for voters with disabilities, addresses challenges faced by Native American voters living on tribal lands, and improves access for uniformed and overseas voters. H.R. 1 ends the practice of disenfranchising Americans with a prior felony conviction who are no longer incarcerated. It unrigs the drawing of congressional district lines by requiring independent redistricting commissions, removing politics from the process, and creating fairer maps. H.R. 1 begins to remove the advantages of dark money and secret donors and lets our neighbors and communities regain their voice to fully participate in our political system. H.R. 1 will amplify the voices of small donors with an alternative voluntary matching system for financing campaigns by empowering small dollar contributors without any taxpayer funds. The bill will save money and bolster the integrity of election administration. It makes improvements to our election security and requires states to use individual, durable, voter-verified paper ballots, a simple safeguard from cybersecurity threats that ensures an auditable paper trail. H.R. 1 will also strengthen congressional and executive branch ethical standards. Democracy is resilient, but the falsehoods spread in the lead-up to and following the 2020 election, as well as the shocking events right here on January 6th, showed us all that democracy requires us to defend it. I urge all my colleagues to support H.R. 1 and ensure all Americans have an equal voice in our democracy, and I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentlelady reserves. Gentleman from Illinois.